We're not ready to get that star wide receiver because we don't have the quarterback to get him the football. You can't play the we're not ready game.
Now, for me, it's not to that degree. I hear what you're saying.
It's the biggest, most important draft in the history of this Philadelphia football franchise. The JAKIB Media Sports 2022 NFL Draft Special. Live on 6abc.com from the Ocean Casino and Resort in Atlantic City. Presented by First Trust Bank, the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. IBEW Local 98, Stateside Vodka, United Healthcare, Mesa Law, 6ABC, and Budweiser, the official beer of the Philly sports fan.
It has finally arrived. We've been waiting patiently for a good couple of months. I would say we've turned our attention to what are the Eagles going to do in the NFL draft. Well, prior to today, they made a big deal with the New Orleans Saints to decrease their number of first-round picks from 3 to 2. But at 2, that's still plenty to talk about. And we'll talk about it leading up to tonight's draft for the next 2 hours right here on Birds 365. John McMullen, Jody McDonald, hanging with you guys. J-Mac, you will get in your car at some point and drive over to the NovaCare complex. You haven't done that in a while, have you?
Last time, I guess, was for Kaiser White, so not too long ago. But yeah, first time for a while with the draft and obviously post-pandemic. Not quite back to normal. They're not going to let us watch the draft on the big screen in the auditorium, but they are going to let us talk to Howie Roseman in the auditorium. So we're getting closer. We're going to be shuttled off to the media house to watch the draft, but it's better than nothing. We're getting a little bit closer. I'm more excited about we're 12 hours away, a little bit underneath. I'm going to go to draftcountdown.com right now. 11 hours, 57 minutes, 31 seconds, Jody. So we're finally here. Boy, I got to tell you, man, you know, we do this show every day. You're on the air, other places all the time. This is, and you've been covering the draft for a long, long time, back to the Radio City days. This is I've been covering this draft for a long time. I've rarely seen this much uncertainty at the top of the draft. It really is a crazy year.
I go back to the Felt Forum days.
Yeah.
Which is where they had it before they moved it over to Radio City Music Hall, which if you're taking a train or a subway, that's quite convenient. Subway lets out right below the draft.
Yeah.
All you got to do is take an escalator up.
Penn Station action. But yeah, the Felt Forum. I remember the NBA draft at the Felt Forum. So what's it called now? The Garden, the theater at Madison Square Garden, I think it's called now. But yeah, I missed it.
Oh, by the way, haven't been in it since. I did an NFL draft. I had been in it previously for some concert shows. It's a nice little room. You got the garden upstairs, 19,000, whatever it is. And then for a nice little 1,500, 2,000 person, they put shows downstairs. And I've been in there for concerts. Yeah, not since I moved the draft there. When they went up to Radio City, I said I'm not setting foot in the.
By the way, I miss Radio City Music Hall. I thought that was a lot of fun when the draft was there. Obviously, everything's about money. They're able to take it on the road and turn it into this big extravaganza. But I got to admit, I miss the days of Radio City Music Hall. It was fun when it was here in Philadelphia on the Parkway, though. So you know. There's some give and take, and it's nice that other cities can get involved, but I miss Radio City, Jody.
Speaking of which, on the location, tonight is going to be it's scheduled to be a big experience, a big extravaganza in Las Vegas. There are weather issues. I turn on NFL Network this morning. The entire city of Las Vegas is under some kind of weather watch. Expected high winds in excess of 20 miles an hour, as you can probably guess.
Oh, it's basically my house. You know, it's always 22 miles. It's blowing again here, so yeah. They'll make do. They'll make do. But it is strange. You don't think about weather typically as being a problem in Las Vegas, but hey, anything can happen.
Whether or not shouldn't be an issue for the NFL draft, but it is. because they are planning to have it outdoors. Now, undercover, but outdoors. And as of right now, they're putting contingency plans in place if they have to move it indoors, because as of right now, it's going to be a problem for the draft tonight. It's a draft. This is not a game. There are no footballs going to be flying around. If there are, they're not supposed to be. But it's amazing that we're dealing with weather issues on an NFL draft night. And yes, it's going to go off at 5 o'clock Vegas time, which means 8 o'clock our time. And here comes the old East Coast unofficial bias that I am going to complain about. There's 10 minutes between picks. I remember, again, at the Felt Forum
15.
and or Radio City Music Hall, it was 15 minutes between picks. And the first round could literally take sneaking up on 7 hours. This way that it's scheduled 10 minutes per pick, you got 32 picks. That's over 5. And oh, by the way, if they start at 8, it's not finishing till 1 o'clock in the morning, East Coast. And I know they have to do it for West Coast purposes. They want to get all their fans in, let them be home from work at least around 5 o'clock to be able to sit down and watch. They can't start this thing till 8 o'clock, Johnny Mac.
You're preaching to the choir here. I say it about games, playoff games, any sport. I mean, you should start that thing at 7 o'clock as early as possible on prime time in the East Coast. But TV runs the world, Jody. And you're right. They want as many people home as possible. And on the West Coast, that's going to be 5 o'clock. So it's 8 o'clock here. They run everything, Jody. Television runs everything. And even you talk about the 10 minutes before the pick. Now, in a typical year like last year, this year's a little bit different, but Jacksonville still knows who they're going to pick. All this nonsense about they don't know who they're going to pick. They know who they're going to pick. They certainly knew who they were going to pick last year. But, it's a TV vehicle, so they tell them, wink, take a little time off the clock. They don't want to go up there 9 and say 9:59 and say, Trevor Lawrence. No, they want to build it up. They want to set the draft. They want to set the stage. TV runs everything, Jody McDonald, in this country. Everything.
It's certainly the big dog in the room. Nobody argues that. And it will be on not 1, not 2, 3 television networks tonight. You have your preference between ESPN and the NFL Network. If you want to know the backstories, the lead-ins to the draft.
The human interest stuff. ABC, human interest, ABC.
Don't know. I don't even know if I'll hit the DVR button for that. No, I will be zoomed in. And oh, by the way, for us here in Philadelphia, the Sixers will be playing at the same exact time, which is going to be a major pain in the rear end. But let us zoom in on the Philadelphia Eagles. As of right now, they have the 15th and 18th pick in the draft. If it goes 10 minutes per pick, the Eagles will not be selecting till after 10 o'clock tonight, maybe close to 11 o'clock. If they move up, it'll be earlier. If they move back, it'll be later, as a matter of fact. And the talk over the last 24, 48 hours is they are more likely, if they're going to move up than move back. How high is high, Johnny Mac? How early do you think we can get that first Eagle pick in tonight?
Well, this is one of the things where I don't think it's good. I'm thrilled that we have this platform here on Birds 365 and JAKIB Media. But, if I wasn't on the air every day, I would have shut this nonsense down a couple days ago, because all you have is this constant rumors and constant, oh, the Eagles are looking to trade up for Jameson Williams. Oh, the Eagles are looking to trade up for Derek Stingley. They're looking to trade up for this, for that, for that. What I can tell you about the Eagles, here's the part I found most interesting for this reason. The New York Giants are now kind of floating out there that they might take Jameson Williams at number 7 overall, which would, be a shock. I think it's, more subterfuge than anything else. But who's in New York? And what have we been talking about in this lead up to the draft? Brandon Brown. Brandon Brown knows who the Eagles like. They could say things change. They certainly change, but he's got a good beat on who they like and who they don't like. So maybe he's trying to leverage the Eagles and to go up really high for that type of player. So maybe that's a little bit interesting. But I will say, to me, if they're going to go up into the top 10, I think it would be for edge rusher or corner. Um, I just do, and I'm not going to waver from that. If it's a targeted trade up, I think, as I said, pretty consistently, it's going to be Jordan Davis. Couple spots, you might have to get ahead of Baltimore to get him. So those are your options, and I start to think at corner, and I say to myself, well, if you're going to play as much zone coverage as they did last year, why do you need to bother to go up and get Derek Stingley or Ahmed Gardner? If you can get Andrew Booth down later in the draft or Trent McDuffie, I don't think there's that big of uh, uh, a chasm between those tiers, especially when you're going to play a lot of zone. But if they don't want to play a lot of zone, if they only played a lot of zone because they were forced to play a lot of zone, maybe they want that type of difference-making player. And then I start to rewind to last year. I think a lot of people don't realize the Eagles had 5 players they were targeting at 12. And I say number one was Kyle Pitts, and that was ludicrous. He was never going to fall that far. The others were Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith at receiver, and J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain at corner. And of that 4, if you would ask me who they would have taken first, it would have been Horn. Who they would have taken second, it would have been Surtain, and then Waddle, and then Smith was the last one. So they wanted a corner for a while, and they would have taken Horn or Surtain last year if they got to him. So maybe there is something to that. If one of the two, Stingley might go 3 overall now. People talking about that with the Texans. If Gardner falls past the Jets at 4, you could see a little slip probably to 9 with Seattle. If those guys start to fall to the back end of the top 10, Howie Roseman has told us consistently behind the scenes, look, you guys know I'm aggressive. If they have a targeted player they want, they'll go up and get him. And he has shown that with Devontae last year. He's shown it with Andre Dillard. He's shown it with Fletcher Cox recently, going up to get particular players that they like, especially if that's the last player they have in a tier, like it was last year with Devontae Smith. So I think if they're going to go up in the top 10, it's cornerback or edge rusher. It's not wide receiver. But that's just my feeling.
And the point you made about if they're going to play a lot of zone, do they really need to use the assets to move up to get a guy who's a notch above the other cornerbacks, who has man-to-man skills, who can get out there and play on an island, who can get up and bump a guy and take him off a route? They didn't do a ton of that last year. I'm hoping it was more out of necessity than Jonathan Gannon's ingrained belief as to what is the best defense you can run out there. We don't really know because they did have. And, I was a Steven Nelson guy. I'm kind of bummed that he went elsewhere this year. I thought he did a representative job, and it was the defensive coordinator's choice to play as much zone as he did. I think if they'd put him on an island, he would have been okay. But it's water under the bridge now because Nelson is gone. Who's going to be that other cornerback? I hope it's a guy that they have faith in, that you can go mano a mano and you can bring an extra guy to the pass rush, and that you're going to try. You're not just going to allow quick hitters out of the backfield, 80% passing completions. How many weeks in a row did they do that? 3 or 4?
Too many.
Ridiculous. Why? Because they're playing off, because they're playing zone. And the quarterback said, all right, I'll get it immediately out of my hand. We'll just chunk you all the way down the field. I hope that's not, I hope it was out of necessity rather than their way of living. If they move up for a corner, it's either Stingley or Sauce Gardner. If the price is not prohibitive, that it's going rate and what we've seen the charge to move up in a draft, I'm completely fine with that. Even though, you've heard me whine and moan about the fact that they need to get an edge pass rusher in this draft, that if we see too much Derek Barnett again this year, I'm going to pull the little hair that I have left right out of my head. If it's a cornerback is the big play and it's one of the top 2 guys, and they're going to change their on-field defensive strategy because of it, and we'll see a more aggressive Eagle defense this upcoming year, perfectly fine with it.
Well, and I would say to your edge rusher point, that would be the second part of it. It would be Kayvon Thibodeau, if they're comfortable with his issues, whatever they are, because I haven't heard them, other than he believes in himself. Um, and Jermaine Johnson would be the two guys, because obviously you're not going to be able to get Hutchinson or Walker. So if those guys start to fall to the back end of the top 10, I think they could potentially make a move for them as well. I'm not buying the Jameson Williams stuff. I think they like him. I think he's the number one receiver on their board. It's really tough to just, you can say, and I talk about vacuums all the time, Jody. You probably get sick of me saying it, but you can say all this stuff all you want to in practicality and say, well, you can't worry about last year. And I agree with that. But you're going to get a top 10 pick at wide receiver last year. You're going to go up and get a top 10 pick, and you don't have a dynamic thrower of the football right now. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, if it falls to you and you don't have to give up the other parts of the equation, and you could still fill some of these other needs later in the draft, yeah, that's fine. I think, they stay at 15 and 18. I think one of those picks is going to be a receiver. But I'm not going to go up and get a receiver in the third year consecutively. And really the fourth consecutive year, you used a premium pick on a wide receiver.
Yeah, see, I'm okay with the philosophy of going hot and heavy after a wide receiver, because you do have to break them down individual years. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, now at tight end. Okay, we'll see about that. Jalen Reagor, damn close to a bust. There, he gets one more year. We'll see if he just comes in and wows the snot out of everybody this year. I'd bet good money against it. Then you got Devontae White, and whatever wide receiver you're going to take this year. You're 1 year into Devontae White, and you got 5 more years with whoever the wide receiver is. The fact that Jalen Hurts isn't a dynamic passer, or wasn't a dynamic passer last year, crossing your fingers and hoping and praying that there's an improved Jalen Hurts coming in this year. You don't know that. But next year, then you're banking on finding that dynamic passer down the field. You're sounding like the Eagle fans, John. Not ready yet. We're not ready to get that star wide receiver, because we don't have the quarterback to get him the football. You can't play the we're not ready game.
Now, for me, it's not to that degree. I hear what you're saying. I'm just not trading up. I expect to get a receiver if I stay put at 15, but I'm not going up in the top 10 to get a receiver again. I'm not going that route because I need too many other things. Remember, too many in too many years, we don't even know what would have happened if the Eagles hit on Jalen Reagor, if the Eagles hit on JJ Arcega-Whiteside. All I know is DeVonta Smith wouldn't be here, and that's bad. People love him, but they would have gotten a different player. Who's to say that player's not Micah Parsons? Probably not going to be, but because they don't take off all linebackers. But you get the point. You have no idea the repercussions of these decisions, and go wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. And then on the back end, we're talking about all these needs, Jody. We haven't talked. We need a corner. We need an edge rusher, defensive tackle, safety, on and on, running back in the day 3. Wide receivers still. They need a backup tight end. On and on and on and on. All these needs. Part of the reasons there's so many needs on this team is because of failed draft picks. So I do think you have to put that into the equation.
Right. But we're only talking about taking one need off the board if you move up to get a wide receiver. You're giving up one of your other picks because you're going to use the pickup. The guy falls down. If Jameson Williams falls down to 15, there's a good chance the Eagles are going to call his name. If you have him that highly rated, do you want to pay the price to get to 12 or 13, whatever that price
7?
is?
No way.
7, no. I'm with you. That's the Giants trying to bait the Eagles a little bit. I'll agree with you on that one. They're not moving up to 7. He's not worth that kind of whatever you'd have to pay to get the 7. Moving up a couple of slots, if he's like Jordan Davis, you got to get ahead of a specific team. Not impossible. That's wide receiver. If he is really above and beyond their number one choice at wide receiver, if you got to pay a little extra to just make sure you lock it in, I'm not I wouldn't be upset with it. Too much? Yeah, no. He's coming off an ACL. You're going to move all the way up to 7 and give up 2 major draft picks to move from 15 to 7? No, I don't see that happening. But we'll get the thoughts of another draft expert joining us next. We'll start with the wide receiver position and how aggressive should the Eagles be for it. Our buddy Rick Saratello from NFL Draft Bible is going to jump aboard. Heavy draft coverage on this draft day edition of Birds 365.